Okay, we're doing it. HitClips, possibly the worst music format in the world ever. Let's take a look.
Hit it! Coming at you right between the ears is HitClips. HitClips is a slick micro audio system.
Always something new. New players and the newest music.
Plus, with the micro boombox, loads the mother load. Some of these songs available now. More this fall, you can collect them all. HitClips, each sold separately.
For anyone who doesn't remember HitClips, like myself, or just didn't notice them when they first came out at least, well, they're a range of music cards and music players aimed at tweens. These were quite popular for a while, between the year of about 2000 and 2004. The music cards, those cost around about $3.99 in the US, and these are edited down versions of popular singles. They tend to be about a minute or so in length, a little bit longer in most cases. It would have made a lot more sense, looking at it logically, for someone to buy a portable CD player and just buy CDs from the store. You could get CD singles cheaper than these, and you could get an album for not so much more in many cases, I'd imagine, even back in the year 2000. But these were very popular. They were like a collectible thing, a thing that kids took to school, and there's a lot of people watching this video, no doubt, who will look back on these very fondly. I'll say I don't really have much of a memory of them, but when I was a kid, I was getting the $6 Million Man to ride down the stairs on Evel Knievel's stunt bike. That probably won't make too much sense to people who remember these. Kids have a different opinion on toys than adults do. Toys aren't supposed to make sense to adults, they make sense to children. And if you get a toy that hits the right market at the right time, you can make a heck of a lot of money on them, albeit for quite a brief period of time. Anyway, let's have a look at my collection, or selection I should say, of HitClips and HitClips players that I bought as a bit of a bundle on eBay. So starting off by looking at an unopened clip, you can see that this one comes from Tiger Electronics UK Limited, but you can also see from the various languages on here that this would have been sold across Europe in this same packaging. They're quite clear about the fact it does not contain the full song, but they come at this from the much more positive approach of stating that this is a special 1-minute micro mix. It mentions that this music clip works with all HitClips players, of which there were many. You can see on the back there's an emphasis on collecting. Generally, kids love collecting things, and HitClips were all about parting those children from their pocket money. I bought my unboxed HitClips from someone in the US via eBay, and it does seem like selling HitClips to the rest of the world was a bit of an afterthought when you look through the 80 or so titles that came out on this format. Many of these artists and songs would have been far more familiar to children from the US than they would be, say, from the UK. The music cards are held on a keyring that has artwork on one side which is protected behind a plastic cover, whilst on the reverse there's an exposed section of the circuit, and that connects with contacts inside the players. In my bundle, I got this earpiece player, which is presumably supposed to look like the Bluetooth earpieces that some adults would be wearing at the time. It's powered by a couple of button cells. There's a 2-position volume slider and a play button, and there's also a fake button, which helps complete that fashionable 10-year-old taxi driver look. I've also got a new player. This one's still in its packaging, so let's rectify that issue. This one came from the UK. It's designed to look like a necklace, and it comes with a 1-minute 14-second mix of Hero by Enrique Iglesias. It's been held inside that packaging for almost 20 years, so I'm slightly impressed that it plays straight away, but I only say slightly because if you've never heard a HitClip before, well, I don't know what bitrate they use for the digital audio, but it's somewhere between 0 and not enough. Have a listen. Yeah, just a tiny snippet of music for the moment. There'll be more coming along later on in the video, whether you like it or not. Oh, you're rejoining me while I was listening to Hilary Duff. Of course I'm not. That's a lie. It's not even switched on. It'd be annoying, wouldn't it? But that brings me on to the point of whether or not you should believe things that you're told on face value, especially when it comes to HitClips, for example. Because I was doing a bit of research online. I don't remember HitClips, so I wanted to get some basic facts and figures. When did it come out? How much did they cost? All that kind of stuff. Things that I could then include in the video to put things into context. Well, I was doing all that, and I kept seeing the same bits of information repeated over and over again. And I could have just repeated those back to you from what I'd read, but I did a bit more research and found that most of that stuff was completely wrong. For example, you'll see things saying that HitClips came out in 1999. They didn't. I'll go on to correcting these facts in a minute. You'll also see that HitClips started off as a toy in McDonald's Happy Meals, but they were so successful they were spun off into their own separate product. That's not true either. I mean, it doesn't make much sense when you think about it. And then the third thing, that you'll see this bouncing around a lot, there's a figure of $80 million. They made $80 million on HitClips in the first year, you'll see. It's all wrong. So let's go into some of those facts and figures and finally put some of them to rest, because some have ended up on Wikipedia. People are copying them all over the place. Let's nail it down to the truth behind HitClips.
HitClips.
The reason that the launch date is important is because if HitClips had come out as had been widely circulated in 1999, that would put these things down as quite an early pioneer in the field of digital players, because the first portable MP3 playing devices only came out in 1998. The MP Man, I think it was, from a Korean company. I've got one of those somewhere, I'll show you one day. But yeah, so if they come out in 1999, that's just a year after the first portable MP3 players. The reality is, though, that the launch date for HitClips was August 2000, which is a lot less exciting, because by the time August 2000 rolled around, there were loads of different MP3 players on the market, so it's not really some kind of groundbreaking trailblazer that you might first think if you'd have believed that 1999 date. So yes, that's the first fact. HitClips came out in the US in August 2000. Now, if you're thinking citation needed, first thing, well, just flip over a hit clip. Copyright 2000. There you go, 1999 debunked straight away. But let's narrow down that date a bit further. This is the September 2000 issue of Popular Science magazine. This will have been on store shelves perhaps late July, maybe early August 2000. So let's look at what's new that month. And there you go, it's HitClips. And just to quote the article, it says Britney Spears will be among the first artists to release HitClips songs. So to stress that again, will be among the first, and that's around about August 2000. But to finally pin that date down to the exact month, in this issue of the music industry publication Billboard from 2002, there's an article about licensing music. And over on the right, when talking about HitClips, it mentions how many units have been sold since the August 2000 launch. So there you go, case closed, launched in August 2000, next.
HitClips.
Now the next one, it's a little bit more subtle. HitClips did not start off as a McDonald's toy that became so successful they ended up being their own product line. I mean, that's ridiculous if you think of all the agreements that Tiger Electronics would have to put together to get the music labels on board, all the different artists signing up and producing all these electronic devices just for a McDonald's Happy Meal that would be on sale for month or two. No, the reality was that Tiger had this new product. They were showing it at the toy fairs, and when they launched it, they had a tie-in with McDonald's to help promote it. So you could go in McDonald's and buy your HitClips player and your HitClips cartridges there, but you could also pop down the road if you wanted and get them at Toys R Us. It was just one of the places that you could buy it from. I just want to add something in here though, because this advert mentions HitClips premiering at McDonald's, so it's possible the tie-in involved a brief window of exclusivity, which would explain the confusion about this being a McDonald's toy that became a breakout success. But whatever that promotional tie-in involved, this was always a product in its own right. It was just one that was initially promoted at McDonald's.
HitClips.
Now the $80 million figure, this one's quite good fun to look into, because you can see a fact being created out of thin air and then that getting repeated and then misrepeated. So we'll start at the far end. So we're a long way away from the truth. This one that says Tiger earned $80 million from sales of HitClips in 1999, which is pretty good going to say that HitClips only came out in August 2000. So we've got a 2-in-1 there. So here's how this all links together. That $80 million number, well, that's cited to this Stereophile article from May 2002. So that date, well, they're probably talking about a year and a half's worth of sales at that point, rather than just a year, and they're stating that Tiger had sold 20 million HitClips and worked out that at $3.99 a piece, that was almost 80 million US dollars. So that's where the 80 million figures come from, total sales, not profit. We don't know how much money Tiger made on each of those $4 cartridges. It's going to be considerably less than the $4 that Toys R Us would be selling them at. There's a lot of people take their cut out of that $4. But even if we just take it as 80 million in sales, well, that number's flawed too, because you can see from this Billboard article from the same time, it states that the mini music players and individual singles have made up sales of 20 million. So that number isn't just made up of singles, it's the players as well. So you can't just multiply 20 million by the cost of the singles. There's more to it than that. But then add on discounts and sales. The truth is, no one outside Tiger knows how much they made on HitClips. It was clearly a very successful product, but that $80 million number, it's just plucked out of thin air. And it's wrong on so many levels, it's probably the one number you can almost guarantee has got nothing at all to do with the real one. Yeah, so that just shows you really can't believe everything you read on the internet. Bit of a shocker that, isn't it? Anyway, let's get back to the tech. Let me show you this HitClips downloader. With this gadget you can record sounds and music off the web to play back over and over. It comes with a recordable hit clip that can hold 2 minutes of audio, and whilst the Yahoo branding and the name downloader might reasonably make you assume this is some way to perhaps copy MP3 files across to a hit clip, it's far less complicated than that. The instructions mention you can record sounds and music right off your computer and the internet without any special software or use of a COM port, and the reason for that is because it's really just a digital audio recorder. It records the audio received over a standard 3.5mm line input. There's an audio pass-through socket, a record and a stop button, and a recording indicator light. There's a built-in speaker with no volume control and a belt clip, and there's a play button. The special recording cartridge can be removed, and then this device is capable of playing any normal hit clip at an annoyingly loud volume. But in addition to that, if you just remove the dock underneath, you can plug in headphones. So finally, you get to hear a direct feed of the audio from a hit clip. Two things to mention here first, though. I'm going to have to mix the clips up to try and fly under the radar of Content Match. And second, yeah, it really does sound this bad. Here you go.
Doesn't matter where I go.
If you were my girlfriend, I could be your hero
All of my life. Wherever I go, I can't wait forward to see.
I understand it's a toy and not a piece of hi-fi equipment, but flippin' heck. But anyway, to wrap this section up, here's one I made earlier. Now, HitClips wasn't just about collecting the little micro music clips. There was a whole selection of players that you could use them on, and there was even an alarm clock. There was all sorts of things. But this is particularly odd in my opinion, because it's a product that pretty much cannibalizes your whole product range. I mean, once you've got one of these, you don't need to go buying your pre-recorded hit clips anymore for $3.99. You can just record onto this from a cassette, from a CD, or even the radio. Perhaps the existence of this was one of the reasons that they decided to relaunch HitClips in 2003 as an incompatible format called HitClips Discs. Let's take a look at them. The main selling point of the disc was that they now contained up to twice the music of the originals. Yeah, thanks for your generosity. That's almost 2 minutes or so. It seems like it was too little too late. The world had moved on by this point. I don't think the disc was sold outside the US, and the catalogue of titles, well, they're all there on the right of the screen. That's it. That's all they had. The discs were perhaps only around for a year or so. They came stored in a spring-loaded keyring holder, and as you can see with this one, if we flip it over, on the back there's a copyright date of 2003. Here's all the discs that came in my bundle. There's a duplicate in here as well. It doesn't seem like they got as creative with the design of the players for the discs either. This one totally hides the disc when it's being played. But it's the same system as before. You've got a play button and a single earpiece. There really seems to be little reason for this product existing other than, of course, trying to make Tiger some money. The longer play time, it's an artificial limitation on both those original cards and on these newer discs anyway. I mean, this Hilary Duff song, that's available on both versions of HitClips. It's the remix on the card and the original version on the disc, but playing both at the same time, one in either ear, the card version, well, that plays for just over a minute 4 seconds, whereas the disc, well, that carries on to play for about a minute and a half. But the longest playing time original hit clip that I've got is one by NSYNC and lasts for 1 minute 23 seconds. And the recordable clip, well, that goes on for 2 minutes and can be played in any of the original 1 minute machines. So you can have a longer track without any need to upgrade to the discs. It's all just marketing BS. Talking of which, in this March 2004 issue of Billboard, it states that Raven has just signed up to be the new spokesperson for HitClips. That's a poison chalice. But at this point, they're stating they'd sold 30 million units. So this is 3.5 years after launch. In the first year or so, they'd sold about 20 million of those. So you can see how the sales have now slowed down. But this is the bit I really wanted to mention. They state that the new discs are backwards compatible with all prior HitClip music. No, they're not. The discs will not fit in the cartridge players, and understandably, the cartridges won't fit in the disc players either. No, the discs were a completely incompatible relaunch. If you try to attempt the equivalent of getting a round peg into a square hole, it turns out that the original cartridge players will not play the discs. I suspect the pinouts have been rearranged. But yes, the discs really were just the same idea repeated, but far less successfully. Perhaps hiding that artwork away wasn't the cleverest idea when you're trying to sell this as a collectible to children. Now, while we're looking at these up close, did you notice that while the players themselves have 6 SIM card type connectors, the cards have 8 pads on them. 2 don't connect with the players. The only device I have where the other 2 pads on the card will come into play is with the recorder. I think those extra connectors on this one are for the on-card record and stop buttons to communicate back with the device. I've also linked to a web page in the description which goes into the technical details of a HitClip card by reverse engineering it. For example, it seems that audio is some kind of PWM. That's more like a talking greeting card than an MP3. By the way, the discs sound just as bad as the carts. There's no change there. And since I've got no headphone socket on this one, I've had to record these over my lavalier. Here's 11 seconds that'll make your teeth vibrate.
When you're walking down the street, some people wait. Change your life.
Now, we know that the toy business is a business. You can tell it's a business because it's got the word business in the name. Same with the music business. So these people are out to make money. Be under no illusions about that. But when you read a little bit more about what was going on behind the scenes with HitClips and the music business, it can't help but make you feel that the whole endeavour was a little bit cynical. One of the inventors of HitClips here states that they originally had difficulty getting the record labels on board because the record label executives were, quote, alarmed that the chips, which contained 1-minute loops of songs, could possibly erode album sales. The major record labels are nothing if not consistently paranoid, but once HitClips became a top-selling toy that actually increased album sales by exposing children to popular songs, they soon changed their tune and went all in, full steam, into Operation Brainwash. This article from around the time of the launch of HitClips in 2000 states that Tiger were going to spend around $4 million to target 8 to 10-year-olds and expected this to result in sales of about 4 to 5 million items through the holiday season. In this June 2002 article, there's now a chap with the title of Tiger Music President, and he states that by combining popular artists with proven play patterns, they can generate incredible sales, exposure and customer loyalty. Remember, we're talking about young kids here. At this point, there were around 80 titles on HitClips from more than 30 artists. They were planning on doing an all-year-round advertising push on major kids' TV programmes on Nickelodeon, Fox Kids, ABC, and via link-ups with companies like Pepsi and Kraft, amongst others. The group Destiny's Child, of course, wanted a piece of this action too, so signed up to the HitClips roster. It states here that the move put Destiny's Child in the aisles of toy departments where many of their preteen fans still shop. It goes on to mention that HitClips was a popular item with the hard-to-reach tweens audience of 8 to 11-year-olds. Kelly Rowland is quoted here as saying that this itsy bitsy stereo is a neat toy. It's mono, but let's move on. Plus we get a lot of notes, she says, from parents saying that we're role models for their kids. The reality of the involvement, though, was a little bit more business focused. The manager of the group, Matthew Knowles, stated, "We wanted to reach the younger market between 6 and 10. You want to build a base because the younger fans stay." What do you think? Pretty stylish. That's with the recordable clip inserted in the top. I think this is how I'm going to listen to all my music from now on, in little 2-minute bites in terrible quality in one ear. Anyway, hailing frequencies closed. So the hit clip to the music labels, from reading that, seemed to be the equivalent of a gateway drug for tweens. Well, at least that's how it reads. It's perhaps being a little bit harsh, but that was the idea behind it. Get kids hooked early on a particular artist so that they then stay with the artist, and as they grow up they then buy CDs. It just seems a little bit cynical all around, but that's what the music business was about at that time, and they sold a lot of these, made a lot of money, and no doubt their plan did work briefly. I mean, between sort of 2000 and 2004 was when this product was on the market and doing well, but it shone brightly and disappeared pretty quickly after that. And of course, around about 2004, you can picture that the MP3 players had really taken off and people were getting their MP3s via different means, and they were no longer paying $4 just to listen to a minute and a half or so of music. So they made the hay while the sun shined in the music business, but then the sun pretty much went out after that for a while, until recently streaming seems to be doing pretty decently for them. Now, I know I'm looking at this from an adult's perspective. We're not talking about it from a child's perspective who just loved the thing because it was a toy that was cool at the time. But if we just step back and say, was this the worst pre-recorded music format in the world ever? If it wasn't, I don't know what is. But anyway, that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.